kids would row across bays in order to go to school. In fact, there was a story that I read about how the kids would get in the boat. They were supposed to go to Union, and then an hour later they show up back into Huya because it was foggy and they didn't know where they were going.
Before highways and bridges, before cars and railways, in Mason County, water was everything. A new exhibit at the Mason County Historical Society explores that story. It's called Shaped by the Water, and it traces how Hood Canal and the surrounding waterways defined life here for thousands of years.
This exhibit is called Shaped by the Water. It is the maritime history of Mason County.
The people who first shaped life here lived entirely by the water. Native tribes along Hood Canal and the Southern Sound used these waterways for food, travel, and community, connecting villages that stretched all the way to Canada.
They lived by the water. They used the water for transportation, for food. They made their baskets using things that grew along the water. Tribal members lived like all up and down Hood Canal, all the way up and to Canada. They would have potlatches.
Long before the interstate, getting anywhere in Mason County meant getting on the water. A fleet of small steamboats, so many, someone in Seattle said they looked like mosquitoes swarming, connected every inlet, island, and shoreline community in the region.
The story behind the naming for the Mosquito Fleet was that someone in Seattle looked out their window and there were so many of these little boats swarming around that they said it was like mosquitoes. Whether that's true or not is a whole nother thing, but it was appropriate. These boats were all over.
As settlers arrived, the waterways became an industrial highway. Logs were floated down inlets, mills were built at the water's edge, and a town took shape. The Simpson Mill alone employed hundreds of people and became the economic backbone of Shelton.
The water was their highway. They, if they wanted to go from here to Olympia, it was maybe a 2-hour ferry ride or a 2-hour ride on the S.G. Simpson or any of the other boats. So the Simpson Mill was huge. I mean, it employed hundreds of people.
That history still shapes Mason County today.
Our waterway is still industrial. Some think, unfortunately, but it provides jobs for people, which is critical. Otherwise, would we be here at all? And I get that question a lot. It's like, why is Shelton here? What is it about this area that created a town, in the 20s and 30s? And it's like, well, it was the mill and the logging industry.
Shaped by the Water is currently on display at the Mason County Historical Society in downtown Shelton. It's a story told through photographs, artifacts, and boat models built by people who know this place.
So this is a really fun picture. This is from 1957, and a lot of these landmarks are still here.